And then here came Jey Uso amidst the people waving the yeet flags down the aisle and the cheerleaders. And down he came, they had him come through the stadium from one of the, upper areas where he could come through the stands. But if you noticed, he wasn't all the way into the waving and the yeeting. He had his game face on and he was headed down there purposefully because it wasn't like he wanted to blow up like on Raw. It didn't matter, right? But this is WrestleMania. He's about to win the world title. And he didn't want to fucking blow up, and I don't blame him. They were smart with that. They probably told him, Jay, please. And then here came Gunther. And the world title match opened the show instead of closing the show, but it was probably for the best that it was in this, but the people were ready to see something, and they were going to be as responsive probably as they were going to be at that point in time in the evening. And what do you think? The only thing I really didn't like about the earlier matches in either show is when it's so daylight. It looks off-putting on television. Am I just sensitive to light because I'm a vampire?
I'm not terribly turned off by it, but because it's the West Coast.
Well, yeah, they're on LA time, right? Yeah. As they say, out in Hollywood.
Because when you think about like the ones where it looked good, Pontiac Silverdome, Hoosier Dome, WrestleMania started a little later in the day. It was the East Coast, so the sun was already going down. So you got the cool for like Roddy Piper versus Adrian Adonis or Roddy Piper versus Bret Hart. You got the look where it's natural lighting, but it doesn't take away anything. And then it pretty quickly started shifting towards darkness. Here it was very, very bright.
It was bright.
And they had the windows there, like what's the Mid-Atlantic arena I'm thinking of?
Oh, Dorton Arena in Raleigh.
Like Raleigh. It had the windows. I thought that looked cool, so I didn't mind that.
But I'll tell you what, in the summertime, TV tapings were awkward in Raleigh too, because they had those windows. Anyway, I don't know. You tell me, because I have the hearing loss, and also stadium crowds are hard to mic. It seemed to me like that they made a correction between night one and night two, where that you could hear the people better on night two, because on night one, even when you could tell they were into it, the crowd was down. The crowd was down, as Goulet would say. But crowd noise is hard in a stadium anyway, because it goes up and it's so spread out and blah, blah, blah. Everybody says that, and it's true. But what do you think? Was it louder night two? Not even necessarily because of the response, but also did they adjust something on the broadcast?
I don't know if it was mic'd the best it could have been, but also it's a giant building, so I really don't know too much about the logistics of miking that size room versus a 20,000 seat building. I do think night two, not to play spoiler here in the review, but like, for instance, the opening match of night two.
Yeah.
The fans may have been more into that than anything else, but I don't know if that's just because the miking was better or just it was working.
Well, no, that was all, that was everything. Yeah. I think they made production changes, but also, as we'll get there, that was worth being loud for. But anyway, with Gunther and Jey, the long-awaited confrontation where Jay's finally going to prove he's not scared and he can stand on his own 2 feet and be his own man and blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't a great match, but it was an emotional match because the people they came to see Jey win. They wanted to see him win. They would have been ticked the fuck off if he didn't win. And as we said, he would have been pretty fucking deader than Kelsey's nuts, as they used to say, if he didn't win. So it was more about the moment and him achieving his goal as the babyface. Gunther is a master. Again, I think he's one of the more perfect guys in the business to work and talk like he looks and like he should be that person. And I think he led, most of this. Jey was working his ass off. He's not naturally the crispest worker, but as we say, it's emotion with him. It's like he sells for the big guy and he fights from underneath, and they had some good false finishes. And Gunther is a heel. This again, this is even if in the WWE as transposed with AEW, even in a match that's not going to be a technical masterpiece, they still take it seriously, and there is a heel and a baby face and some goal in mind. There is reason for these matches, and these are the way you create moments rather than creating moments by having the goddamn 5.5 star and 7/8 star matches out of nowhere between people they don't care about. That's the kind of point I was trying to make. So nevertheless, boom, boom, boom. And Jey was right there with him. And finally, Gunther had the sleeper and he had fucking worked on it. And Jey got a rope break. And Gunther got more heat on him. And finally, Jey fought back and leveled him and hit a power bomb and 2 super kicks and a spear. And went to the top rope and did a splash off the top and another splash off the top and another splash off the top and grabbed the fucking sleeper on Gunther, and Gunther tapped out. The only thing he didn't hit him with was a fucking school bus. And boom, and Jimmy's the new champ, or Jey's the new champ, and Jimmy came out to celebrate with his brother, and that's what they wanted to see. And as we said when we were talking about this ahead of time, I don't think it hurts Gunther because he can actually move on to something else. And I believe they've established that he's going to be a champion more often than not in the WWE because they keep talking about how he's been a champion 80% of his time there. But it actually might be better if he doesn't have a belt right now where he can get in the mix with some of the biggest stars. Most of them don't have any fucking belts. So that would be a main event upgrade to not have to worry about a fucking belt. But anyway, what'd you think, Brian?
I thought it was okay. Not great. I wasn't really crazy about the finish. You know, someone brought it up, and I don't know if you could really do it nowadays or if it's the same thing, but, you know, sometimes it was better when the arm was raised 3 times. It was a little more dramatic. I wasn't crazy about the finish. I was very surprised they opened up with this. Now, obviously, they opened both nights with matches they thought would really get the crowd going and the crowd would really be into it. But it felt like sometimes maybe they needed a match like that later in the shows. And knowing you're going to give everyone a happy moment here, I was surprised they opened with it.
Well, I think, honestly, that's probably one of the reasons why they did, because they wanted to start the show off with everybody feeling good. But also, since this world title match wasn't the main event, in effect, in this position, it was more crowd friendly to Jay's response because they weren't tired out, et cetera, et cetera. So I can see why if this wasn't going on last, it almost had to go on first in my mind. I can see why they did that. But at the same point, you know, they love Jay so much, and it would have made him look so weak he couldn't draw a greasy string out of a cat's ass if he hadn't won this thing when they put him into it. But now it's not going to be like it was the, what did they used to call it? The workers title, or the working man's, or the idea that the best technical in-ring wrestler is that world champion has gone by the wayside. And now he's going to have to defend it against people. And I wonder, he's got to keep it long enough that it doesn't make him look like a goof to lose it real quick. But I think he's one of these guys that they have more sympathy for when he is the underdog, because he's when he's the world champion. But if he was to have to defend against somebody that they're kind of liking and starting to get into, they may want to see that guy be the world champion. So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I wonder if it's like a Tommy Rich thing. I'm not saying it's going to be like an 8-day championship reign or whatever it was, but
Well, I thought you were going to blame Barnett and
no,
the.
that's not what I was saying either. But the idea of here's the most popular guy he's always chasing, not that it was a long chase, but then you gave it to him, and the chase was kind of over at that point. You know, everyone's a different kind of champion. We'll see with Jey Uso. I won't even ask you about what to do next with Gunther. Let's wait until we watch Raw later. But that was the opener of WrestleMania Night 1.